Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Monash. From time to time, we have AMA episodes on the podcast. These are Ask Me Anything. I love to answer your questions. If you have a question you think is going to be of broad interest, send it in. I'll answer it live on the air. Send your questions to victor@victorjm.com. That's victor@victorjm.com. On today's show, we're talking about the history in the making, how we're living in an unprecedented time in history. My parents grew up during the Depression. While they both came from affluent families, my grandfather on my father's side was a pharmacist, and on my mother's side was an industrialist and an inventor who ran several paper factories. Then World War II broke out, and my parents came to New York City in 1939 with next to nothing. Those years shaped a generation. People saved money. They didn't spend. They kept spare parts that might be reused someday if something broke. They even kept broken spare parts that might be reused someday if maybe a new part needed to be somehow manufactured. I never quite understood that one. My father would save scraps of paper and write the shopping list on them. He would save used envelopes and take notes on them. And here we are in 2020. New patterns are being shaped. People have avoided human contact for nearly 3 months. Use of social media and online services have exploded. We've become more disconnected, in attention deficit as a society. Alcohol consumption has increased for many people. The powerful lesson from 2020 is that anything can change dramatically at any time. Your business might be performing well one day and shut down the next. You can't have a plan that you can count on. And over the past 50 years, we've had a steady, continual increase in debt. But since debt is borrowing from the future to make money available today, it only makes sense to borrow if you're certain about your future. Those companies that have the most debt are the ones in the greatest difficulty during this period of economic disruption. Some of the largest organizations are entirely debt-funded. They felt really certain about their future. But we know the future is uncertain, and it didn't take a pandemic to teach us that. Signs were there before. But only now are people really understanding and internalizing that uncertainty on a large scale. Will people and businesses change their patterns of indebtedness in the future? Our entire economic system, our banking system, all of it depends on people borrowing money. And if people stop spending and if they start saving and living within their means, who knows how that's going to affect the economy over the longer term. The people who are introverts have been handling this pandemic the best, and the extroverts are having a more difficult time. The number of parents consumed by guilt that they can't handle work and homeschooling their children. Some students are refusing to go to university until in-person classes resume. Our society has pushed the elderly into care homes when the kids could no longer look after aging parents. The pandemic has injected a wave of fear across the entire industry. Assisted living homes are forcing new residents to quarantine for 14 days before coming into a home. And for many with high needs, a 14-day quarantine is a practical impossibility. The way we care for our parents might change. How is it going to change? Well, I don't know. It remains to be seen. We won't know for some time. We have children of school age for whom their schooling experience has been majorly disrupted, and those in their high school years are going to feel this the most acutely. The millions of job losses will impact teenagers getting their very first job. Those patterns of enterprising young adults entering the workforce are being disrupted during the formative years. Instead of mowing the neighbor's lawn, they're home playing video games or watching movies. Many people are spending a lot more time in sedentary activities. They're not getting out and exercising. The gyms have been closed for months and many are scared to go back even when they do open. The swimming pool is a lot less important as an amenity, and the Amazon Dropbox is way more important. We've all traveled on a plane seated next to someone sniffling, sneezing, and coughing. A few days after getting home, you've got a cold and you know exactly where you got it. Today, that kind of behavior would stimulate a pretty strong response. Some people have been forced into starting a new business because their existing business evaporated. Some will be much more reluctant to take new business risks. Businesses that look like a sure thing evaporated, particularly if the business was in the service sector. I've seen massage therapists trying to cancel their commercial leases. And that's all fine, but what will they do when this is over? Are they getting out of the business entirely? What are they going to do instead? These are all new patterns in the making, And the longer these patterns take root, the more difficult it'll be to establish new, healthy patterns. As you think about that, examine your own patterns during this pandemic and whether you like them or actually want to establish new ones. Have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.